ITNation Connect 2024 was last week. It's the Monday after. Huge success. Largest MSP event of the year. So many new announcements. So many new exciting things going on. We had a great time. We had Podcasters Row for the first time ever at an MSP event, by the way, not just ITNation, where we had 9 podcasters set up in their own area, in a high traffic area, just having conversations with attendees, MSPs, with vendors, with ConnectWise staff. Just a wonderful event. Ushering the new CEO, Manny Ravello, as Jason McGee exits, and lots of great new product announcements. I personally had a speaking session there as well, which was a great success, how to help MSPs in sales and marketing with podcasting. There was great after parties with Universal and Stone Temple Pilots, and Tony Hawk spoke, and it was an incredible event. We recorded many conversations, and the following is one of the conversations, and they were all great. It was a high traffic area, so they might be a little noisy, but just a great event. I encourage everyone to consider going to it. Thanks so much for listening.
Hi, I'm Joey Pinz, and here's my 45-second introduction. After starting my business in the 90s, I started developing poor habits of eating in my diet because of working way too much. I found myself at 340 pounds. The doctor told me if I don't lose the weight, I'm not going to see my daughter graduate. I took the next 7 months, lost 130 pounds. People ask me, how'd you do it? What's the secret? I need to lose weight. How'd you do it? How did I lose the weight? Just one word: discipline. I've had other successes in life, and I attribute them all to discipline. Now, I'm not the king of discipline, but I believe that it can help all of us. Friends convinced me to start a podcast. The podcast mission: how do we better ourselves and society? I talk to interesting people in health, fitness, sport, wellness, business, technology, science, art, and culture. And I eventually asked them how discipline plays a role in their life. Podcast vision: growth through learning from others.
How can you do a lot of outdooring in Brooklyn?
Well, the secret about New York City is that about, an hour and a half, 2 hours, just upstate, there's a lot of really nice nature.
Of course it is. It's a very different area upstate. People don't realize how big New York is.
New York is massive. You don't even have to go up to, Buffalo,
right,
Albany,
Rochester, right.
Exactly. You don't even have to go that far north up towards Canada. You can just
Westchester,
a couple of hours, Westchester, Forestburg. There's amazing biking, kayaking if you're into that kind of thing.
Even in Connecticut.
Yeah.
You can do that there. Yeah. And what kind of biking? It's all road or?
It's a combination. I mean, there's some pretty gnarly trails you can go on too, or just road biking around. They're super beautiful. So for me, it's just a great balance. The intensity of New York City, it's really nice to balance that out with nature outside for sure.
Do you compete?
No. Just like biking with an audiobook in one ear. And just enjoy myself.
Good for you, yeah, because you're off the grid. It's nice, huh? Exactly. And only one ear because you need to hear.
I want to hear if there's a car coming.
The problem is the drivers, right? Yeah. I did a couple triathlons, so
no kidding.
Yeah, I love to swim. I like the bike, and I couldn't stand the run. But you learn certain things with biking: how to control the gears, right, and how to.
I feel you. I've never done a triathlon. I'd love to, though, at one point. There's this 5-borough bicycle race in New York City that I'd really like to try. It's a massive city. Like Brooklyn by itself, I hear, is like the 5th largest.
Is it that borough?
Would by itself be the 5th largest city in the States.
Really?
I mean, it's just, there's people that bike, like almost 100 kilometers.
Wow.
Like it's huge.
But the problem with it to me, Chris, is that you got to do it for 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah, I don't mind that.
It's like a golf round.
I don't mind that.
Yeah. Because you're getting away from it.
Biking with good company and or a good audiobook to me is nirvana.
And the audiobook, is it fiction or nonfiction?
Like either.
I say.
Either.
And never a podcast. It's always a book.
I love podcasts too.
I say.
I'll do podcasts. I'll do a sci-fi novel. I'll do nonfiction. The trick is for me is, to be honest, is that the narrator, the quality of the voice is at least as important as the actual content.
So a lot of times in nonfiction, I want the author to do it. I just kind of feel it's a little more authentic. In fiction, they get different voices and things like that. But you're right. If the author doesn't have a very good voice, I wonder how they're coming.
The author's great because it's where the inspiration comes from.
Right. You feel it.
And a lot of the time, the author is great. Once in a while, though, the author themselves just doesn't have the right voice for the job. So.
And that's the fault of the editor or the director, right? Recording it?
I don't know. You know, it's probably the author's choice on some level, whether they want to do it themselves or hire somebody to do it. But you know, as a podcaster, you've got a great voice. You know, you do for a living, right? And so it's I don't know. You'd probably be a great narrator of audiobooks.
Maybe I would. Did you ever write a book? You ever think about writing a book?
You know, I think maybe one day far in the future from now, you know, just the story of being an entrepreneur and starting companies. There's a lot of adventures that happen along the way. And I feel like at some point I'd love to pass along that knowledge. But, you know, I think that's quite a few years down the line, at least.
Yeah. And I got approached because of the podcast a couple of years ago. So I couldn't believe that I was able to write. And then I'm not much of a writer, but to me, nonfiction seems, I get to talk to fiction authors in the podcast. Yeah. They're like, you know, I had this one character and all of a sudden the character took over and other characters showed up. It's formed me. I loved hearing that.
Yeah.
You know, we had this plan for this character, but then this character came in. But you're the one writing it. How did that character? It's amazing to me.
Well, it's funny. My father's actually a novelist.
Ah.
And I'll have to introduce you to. But, you know, he does John le Carre style espionage, Cold War era historical fiction. Not really, you know, cybersecurity or sort of technology related, but much more your kind of classic spy novel. Although his books are more like kind of Moby Dick in terms of the length. They're a Russian, like they're very long, very, very long. But you know, but also very rooted in you know, American and Soviet history. So I'm sure on some level maybe that's inspired me. But no plans to write any fiction yet.
Was he in the military?
He wasn't in the military, but you know, his parents were in the Foreign Service, and he grew up traveling all parts of the world, Asia, Europe, Eastern Europe, Australia. And I think that journey really impacted him, his journey as an author.
Very cool. So we're here in Orlando. It's ITNation Connect. It's the biggest event of the year. Crazy things happening these 3 days. What are some of your goals here?
Well, we're trying to spread the word to MSPs at ITNation about the phishing attack landscape. And I think a lot of folks in the security industries and the MSP space know that phishing is the #1 origin of data breaches, ransomware events. But I think what a lot of them don't know is that it's not just an email problem. You know, users are clicking on phishing links not only in the email box, but also through text messages, through QR codes, through LinkedIn messages. And the attack landscape that hackers are using to deliver credential theft phishing links are much broader than most people realize. So my main goal is to spread that message and also to talk about how Pixum Security, our company, is really here to help solve that problem.
How did you get into security?
I stumbled into it. You know, I was studying computer vision and AI in graduate school. And for some context, computer vision is the software in Tesla vehicles that's making full self-driving.
I didn't know it had a name.
It's computer vision. It's software that can see. Right. And I was in grad school studying applications in cybersecurity. I didn't know how to spell cyber when I started, if I'm being honest. I read a paper that was about protecting users from phishing attacks using computer vision. And I thought, you know, I don't know much about cybersecurity, but I do know what phishing is. You know, it's a problem that it's impacted members of my family. I think when I was 16, I clicked on a Google phishing link and I discovered that this was really at the heart of every major breach that ended up on the front page of whatever news journal you could mention.
Wow.
And so I found this application. I was very passionate about how computer vision and AI could have a positive impact on the world. And I entered a pitch contest, won a little bit of prize money. I bought a ticket to Black Hat in Las Vegas. I spent the day talking to every cybersecurity vendor there because I wanted to get educated. I want to understand what are people doing about this problem. It's where all these data breaches begin. And the feeling I got from that conference and talking to all the vendors who are marketing phishing solutions was, it was a bit like putting yellow tape around a crime scene. You know, people were getting reports of phishing attacks and then they were adding known bad URLs to blacklists, to firewalls, to their mailbox security. But, if somebody launched a brand new phishing attack to harvest credentials in an organization, there was really very little that was being done at the time to address that. So that was a little bit about the origin story and how I stumbled into the area.
Very cool. And why work with MSPs?
Well, I think that MSPs are really serving a broad base of small, medium-sized businesses. For that segment, bad cyber incident in the form of a data breach can put you out of business. And, we've been quietly growing our business as a OEM white label to companies that are building out services business, managed services business. And we find that our technology and our browser extension, I'm sure we'll get more time to talk about that, it's actually been a way for them to build relationships with their clients and build their services businesses out. We protect users from phishing links that they click on. And so when it happens, our partners that are building out MSP businesses, it gives them an opportunity to build relationships with their clients and say, hey, here's your vulnerable users. Here's the kinds of attackers that are targeting your clients. So we feel it's a very natural fit for a lot of MSPs, and we think that we can help them protect their clients from the next generation of spear phishing attacks.
Did you make the product with MSPs in mind, or did you find about MSPs later?
We made the product with MSPs in mind.
Wow.
In the early days, we partnered with some of the investors and folks who pioneered the cybersecurity industry and built companies like Tenable Networks. And so they educated us at early time about the importance of MSPs, multi-tenancy requirements. And so we've really built our product from day one to have that capability baked in.
Very cool. And second. And so if you knew about MSPs first, but you weren't a former MSP.
I'm not a former MSP.
How did you learn about them? Through the investors?
Through the investors, and we right now serve probably about 100 school districts in the United States, and that's through a channel partner that's building out a managed services business. And so they've used our product to actually build that out. And between that experience and between advisors that we brought on board, we've really found MSPs as an area that's really resonated with our product. And, we've launched our MSP program just a week ago officially.
Oh, wow.
Already we have several that have signed up because, the folks that tend to come and talk to us say, one of our clients suffered a really nasty data breach last week that started from a phishing attack.
Wow.
And they look at our product and they say, that's the thing that we needed yesterday to solve this.
Jeez. It must be a nice sense of satisfaction when your product stops something like that.
It really does. The outcomes, depending on the vertical, the industry that you're in, can really be pretty bad, right? Like, what if somebody gets access to very sensitive assets, very sensitive data assets, and they say, hey, I'd love to not release this publicly, but you're gonna have to pay me $5 million. And that data's got healthcare information, very sensitive data,
right,
about your users or about your business, and that's something that on a daily basis we're seeing with our clients. Folks are clicking on phishing links that are getting delivered in Adobe files, some through email, but also others through Adobe files, QR codes.
Wow.
And our browser extension is blocking it. Right. And at that point of click protection, we'll talk more about how that works. But, it's that last line of defense, right? So if our product wasn't there, that client would have very likely suffered a major data breach, and some of the outcomes can be pretty devastating. So it's dark, but at the same time, we are witnessing an impact that our product is having. So that's also rewarding in its own way.
Yeah, it certainly is. So your message to MSPs this week is what?
The attack landscape has changed. Hackers that are trying to compromise your clients, your users, look at the email box and they say, that is super well fortified. These organizations have Proofpoint, they have Mimecast, they've got all kinds of products that are integrated with email. But if those hackers want to phish their users, instead of delivering their phishing attacks through email, they're going to deliver it through other means. They're going to deliver it through LinkedIn messages. They're going to deliver it through text messages.
LinkedIn messages, really?
Yep. It's really creative, but those kinds of delivery mechanisms are not fortified. So hackers are saying, the mailbox is really tight right now, so I'm going to use other means. What about a QR code? Right? What if I want to deliver a credential phishing attack through a QR code? Slack.
You're telling me you
We've
could
seen
scan in a
everything.
QR code and it could be a phishing landing page.
Yeah, I mean, a QR code is nothing but a image of a link.
Right, it's a link, yeah.
And so it's going to resolve ultimately to that password page.
Oh, man.
So the attack landscape's really diverse. And over half of the phishing attacks that we stop for our clients are not clicked in corporate email. They're clicked somewhere else, right? And if there's one thing I can leave MSPs with to remember, it's really, at least just from an awareness perspective, like just remember that this is a much bigger problem than email.
Chris, has there been anything in the last month or so that you've changed your mind on?
With regards to cybersecurity,
Anything?
I mean, every day I'm learning new tactics that hackers are using,
The QR code's a new one to me, but it makes perfect sense. And LinkedIn?
Yeah. I think there's also a whole world of what I call detection-resistant email phishing as well. So we talked about how today there's a lot of products in the email security space to combat phishing, right? I named a couple of them like Proofpoint and Mimecast, and these are great products by any stretch of the imagination. But what we've seen very recently was we had one customer that had 91 users click on a phishing link that was delivered through email. And this link was hosted on a legitimate university website that had been compromised. So it had a great reputation, had a valid SSL certificate, passed all kinds of checks. And
They got hacked.
when they clicked that link 91 times, it would redirect to a CAPTCHA verification. So it would go to a page saying, verify they are a human. Then the end user has to go solve a puzzle, to prove that they're a human.
I've seen that.
So if you think about these email products, like how many hoops they have to jump through, even just to check and see the payload of what's being delivered to their clients, they can't even see it because it's a CAPTCHA, or it's being redirected depending on who and when the click is actually happening in the inbox.
Amazing.
So is there one thing I've changed my mind about? Yes, there's a lot of activity happening outside of the inbox, but I think legacy email protection just has a lot of problems. And one of the reasons we're protecting users in the browser is because you can't hide the phishing attack from protection in the browser. So we have a browser extension that's like an extra pair of eyes in the browser using computer vision. And no matter how users click on that link, whether it's through email or somewhere else, we're able to detect and stop phishing attacks there, no matter how it's clicked or no matter how many redirects or CAPTCHAs or detection-resistant techniques hackers use.
You're still recommending email protection, but this extra layer adds that much more protection.
Correct. Correct, exactly. We are a complement, we are an add-on to legacy email. We're not trying to rip and replace it.
So, Chris, I started my MSP in the 90s, 93 in New Haven across the Sound from where you are, and was working way too hard and got myself up to 340 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah, 46-inch waist. And I'm at the doctor's office, and she says to me, if I don't lose the weight, you're not going to see your daughter graduate. My daughter was just born. Scared the hell out of me. So I spent the next 6-7 months, lost about 130 pounds. So when I started doing the triathlons, right? And people want, like, what's your secret? And there's no secret. Because the way I lost it, and keep it off, by the way, is discipline.
Yeah.
I got a routine, I got willpower, etc. I wonder how discipline plays a role in your life.
Gosh, I think for me, it's definitely very critical. When you're getting a new technology or business off the ground, you don't get a lot of short-term positive feedback for what you're doing. You only get that kind of feedback in the long term. And so I think you have to just be ready to put in a lot of hours and a lot of potential kind of random things that kind of get thrown at you along the way. And it's just a lot of getting up early, a lot of troubleshooting, a lot of problem solving. And in the long term, it starts to pay dividends, but it's kind of like, when you're first trying to lose that weight, you don't see it on day one or day two, right? You see it in the months and years after consistent effort.
Yeah.
So I think discipline does play a large role from that perspective.
Interesting.
And by the way, I have the opposite problem. I'm trying to gain weight.
Yeah,
So-
which is a serious issue for many, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure you have a lot of calories. It just doesn't add on. Your metabolism's so...
Yeah, it's forgetting to have lunch, having busy days, and just making time to eat a lot of food, get consistent protein intake and calories. But I think it's clearly amazing what you've done over the years.
Yeah.
I mean, you look great. So
Yeah, it's tough and it's ongoing.
Yeah.
What motivates you?
Today, it's stopping phishing attacks for our clients. You know, some of the outcomes. For example, we're really busy in school districts. We serve about 100 different school districts across the U.S., including some of the largest city school districts with hundreds of thousands of students and staff. And you know, for these clients, data breach could mean access to healthcare records of students. It could mean, you know, what's the plan if there's a school shooting event. It could mean suspension records. It could mean pregnancy records, psychiatric hold records. It's a lot of healthcare data about students. It's very, very sensitive. It's not just about grades. And, you know, it's student identities, you know, and so that means hackers that steal that information, they can go and open up a credit card because they have fresh credit ratings. And the students, because they're 10, 12 years old, they're not even going to know about it for decades. And I think the impacts preventing these sorts of outcomes, it's been pretty amazing. And getting this protection out to a larger population of MSPs and businesses, to me, is very motivating right now.
So, given that motivation, how do you measure success?
Phishing attacks stopped, and users. And of course, as from one business owner to another, right? You also have to, of course, get your revenues up as well and grow the business. But ultimately, it's that impact in terms of data breaches stopped.
Very cool. Well, the company's Pixum. You're here. You've got a booth here at this big ITNation. I thank you so much for your time. Great talking with you today.
Joey, it was a real pleasure. And congrats on your journey as well and all the weight loss and your discipline. And it was really great talking to you.
Be well.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypinz.com. There you'll find lots of resources and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations.